It's undeniable to any fan of the Westclox that they made some very nice alarm clocks. One of my favorites is the Westclox Ben-Hur. Such a wonderful name for a clock with such very crisp, clean, almost neoclassical lines to it. You can almost imagine if the Romans had alarm clocks that were mechanical wind-up clocks, that would have to look something like this. And it's amazing what a nice clock they made just by taking the good old sleep meter / jack-o'-lantern and putting a base on it. And of course, the Ben-Hur was also available in colors. And of course, it's hard to match the low-cost workhorse of the Westclox line with the America. This clock sold for 85 cents when it was first introduced in the late 1880s or early 1890s. But it's worth taking note of some of the clocks that the Westclox was in competition with. I don't know what the time frame is for this particular model, but looking very sleep meter-ish is an Ingraham double duty from a company that's well known for the black mantel clocks and kitchen clocks that it made with the oak cases. They also made this very rugged, very dependable alarm clock. The bell is mounted inside, attached to the bottom 2 screws of the movement. The same movement they would use for decades, it getting slightly cheaper each year. But this particular clock dates from the time period when the movement used all lantern pinions instead of the famous self-destructing center wheel pinion, which as the clock runs, the pinion leaves cut through. And of course, slightly older and very much more competing with the Sleep Meter family is this New Haven tattoo made by the New Haven Clock Company, the ancestor of the famous Chauncey Jerome Company. And I've taken the back off of this clock so you can see what the movement would look like on one of Westclox's competitors. Here's the back of the case, and just like the sleep meter, the whole back of the case is also the bell. I'm not going to chip the bell backwards, but I've got the parts in there right now. But this gives you very good indication of what one of these movements would look like from one of Westclox's competitors. They're built just like a miniature version of the 8-day movements used in the larger clocks. This movement's interesting in that it's a repeating movement, just like a lot of the early sleep meters were. This is the repeat lever right here. And then this is the alarm on-off lever. And in the on position, the repeat lever sits there and rides the cam on the third wheel. And when it's off, the cam is lifted up far enough that it's not going to sit there and ride the wheel and affect the timekeeping. This is not a bad clock, but unfortunately it was defaced by a previous owner trying to oil it to resurrect it to running condition, and it's created the marbleized effect on the dial. I've not had this one apart. As you can see, the corrosion on the hand there, where the alarm set hand attaches to its shaft. I have got it going again. had the escapement apart. And of course, these things are fun to watch. See if we can get some alarm action to happen here. Watch the repeat lever. As I said, that's a very nice old clock, nice pie crust bezel on the dial there. Let's take a look at the Ingraham movement. It's a fairly easy clock to get into. And of course, this one's from sometime in the 1920s and has a nickeled case and an aluminum backplate. And as with most American alarm clocks, the keys come off by unscrewing them in the opposite direction that you turn them to wind. The shaft being threaded. And then the back of the case is simply a friction fit. We can now see the movement with all the wheels, the escapement, and then there's the very small bell mounted inside. To activate the alarm is rather simple. Turn the alarm to the point where it's supposed to ring. And then you can just see it that there is a pin on the alarm escape wheel that interacts with the And of course, this uses a very Americanized pin pallet version of the Mudge lever escapement, just like the New Haven does. You look at it. The impulse faces are on the escape wheel teeth. All four of the Westclox clocks use a lever escapement using the club tooth teeth of a pocket watch movement, and all the impulse action occurs divided between the pallets and the escape wheel tooth. It's a very interesting contrast, the construction of these movements with the Westclox. And it's worth noting that these are all 30-hour clocks, yet the springs in the Westclox clocks will run for 30 hours, are about 2/3 the strength that the springs are in, say, this clock, which is the one that's closest in size to the Westclox clocks. And the construction is quite a bit different. So, thanks for following along on this little diversion here of Westclox versus the other manufacturers. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm glad that I got to show some of these timepieces off to you. As always, feel free to comment, etc. down below. This is Oklahoma Bridges, and thank you for watching.